Hello to everyone watching, and welcome to PVP's special May Day live stream. I think it's really important that we're all here celebrating the struggles that workers have been through over the last year. The last year has been super difficult for a lot of people because of the COVID pandemic, and we've seen mass unemployment, we've seen huge redundancies from the likes of Debenhams, and many other struggles from student nurses who have been pulled in to work in hospitals and take the places of nurses a lot of the time. So we've seen a huge amount of struggle over the last year, and we've also had massive wins, and we've seen what workers can do when they come together and fight for their rights, from Debenhams, from the student nurses, from the SNAs, from building workers. And tonight, hopefully, what we're going to do is we're going to hear from all them. So, and we're also going to have some lovely music to kind of bring it all together, because it's been a difficult year, and we should celebrate the wins that we've had and the unity we've seen through struggle. So without further ado, I will be introducing Shiva Hennessy, who's going to be singing Workers Song by Ed Pitchford.
Come, all of you workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries long past, for no more than your bread, have bled for your countries and counted your dead. In the factories and mills, in the shipyards and mines, we've often been told to keep up with the times, for our skills are not needed. We've streamlined the jobs, yeah, with slide rule and stopwatch, our pride they have robbed. Ah, but when the sky darkens and the prospect is war, who's given a gun and pushed to the fore and expected to die for the land of our birth, though we've never owned one handful of earth? We're the first ones to starve, we're the first ones to die, we're the first ones aligned for the pie in the sky, and we're always the last when the cream is shared out. Yeah, the worker is working when the fat cat's about. Ah, but all of these things the worker has done, from tilling the fields to carrying the gun, we've been yield to the plow since time first began. Yeah, you're always expected to carry the can. All of you workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries long past, for no more than your bread, have bled for your countries and counted your dead.
Thanks so much, Shiva. That was beautiful and a really nice way to start the evening. So I just want to say hello again to everyone who's here. And tonight is about kind of celebrating the wins that we've seen over the last year and the struggles that we've seen that have brought people together and workers together, especially on May Day. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Jodie Milne, who is a student nurse and an IMNO member.
So you'll all be glad to know that I won't be singing, but wow, that was absolutely beautiful. I want to start off by wishing you all a very happy May Day, and while it is great to celebrate our past achievements on International Workers' Day, we also need to reiterate why we need a strong trade union movement in Ireland now more than ever. So my name is Jodie, I'm a nursing student, and we've had to fight very hard this year against the conditions we're facing. As a student nurse, I do a lot of placements, and we work very hard at this for 35 hours a week. But because it's classed as education, it's completely unpaid. This means that most of us had to work on top of that to be able to live, and at one point I was working 65 plus hours a week between my placements and my own job, which, as you can imagine, was difficult for me, it was difficult for my classmates. But you've all probably seen the public outrage when we became vocal about our issues and actually demanded pay for the work we do. On an individual level, though, there was only so much we could do. The IMO is the union that represents student that represents nurses and midwives in Ireland, and thankfully they have a student section. Through this, we were able to organise online protests with their full support. We were able to stand in solidarity with each other against their mistreatment and blatant exploitation. For years, we'd been asking for an independent review into our placement circumstances, and when we came together as workers, we got it. For years, we'd been asking for financial support while on placement, and through protests, social media campaigns, and above all, solidarity, we eventually got that. This is only the start. The offer they gave us of €100 a week for 35 hours work is insulting, but it is a stepping stone, and the union support really helped to make this possible. Ireland needs to see a strong trade union movement now, one that is inclusive and accurately represents the rights of all workers, even those of us unfortunate enough to have our work dismissed as education. I read an article from RTE today that said the Debenhams protests have added €250,000 per month to the cost of the liquidation. Solidarity and collective action is what will shape the future for workers in Ireland, and with the strength and determination these workers have shown for over a year now, I'm optimistic for our future. Happy International Workers' Day.
Thank you so much, Jodie, and solidarity to yourself and all the student nurses. I'd like to go on and introduce Johnny Glynn now, who was part of the Aramark Canteen strikes and is a SIP2 member. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, how you doing, Sabine? I'd like to thank everybody for giving us the invitation, actually, to say a few words here today. I'd like to wish everybody a happy May Day and hope everybody actually enjoys themselves. We began our action against both Aramark and AIB in October 2020. After numerous attempts to agree a fair redundancy package for all our staff that were being laid off, suddenly by both companies above. After weeks of negotiation between SIP2 and Aramark and a failed attempt in the WRC, we had no choice but to take a stand and place an unofficial strike on AIB's headquarters in Ballsbridge. We had unequivocal support from all unions around us, including the Builders Union and the Security and Cleaners Union and the FSU. Before we took to our protests to the streets for a group of 12, we grew to hundreds as a flood of public support boosted our cause. Bank staff that were still working in headquarters brought us not only refreshments every day, but words of support, and they're back into our campaign. A chance meeting one day with People Before Profit rep, John Whipple, propelled us into social media and also put us in contact with our fellow strikers, the Debenhams Workers in Henry Street. Our presence on social media and some brilliant direction from John Whipple led us to giving our story to the Irish Times, who published a piece on our efforts in only our 6th day on strike. Word spread quickly, and the pressure finally told on our ex-employers, and they asked for our strike to be lifted, and in return, a date in the Labour Court would be agreed to. We took counsel with our SIP2 representative, Brendan Carr, who played a blinder for us in the Labour Courts. After lengthy negotiations and arguments, and a decision by the Labour Court found in our favour, and our long, needless battle against 2 joint corporations had come to an end. Anything we asked for was not a hopeless negotiation tactic, but in fact, it was a contract stipulation that we all were entitled to when we signed for AIB years ago. To be treated the way we were, and to have to finish our time standing on the streets waving placards was not the way we should have ended our careers in catering. But we feel proud that we took a stand and fought for what was rightfully ours. We fought to join corporations, we never wavered in our belief, and we won our admiration from our fellow colleagues who spent 13 months battling a faceless conglomerate remains. And if I could give a little advice to these heroes, then it will be never give up, keep fighting. Parties like People Before Profit and the Independents actually cared about our situations and are not in it to further their own interests. And if not for people like John Whipple and Breed Smith, then I'd say our struggle would have continued in Dublin 4. Thanks for listening to our story, the Ballsbridge 12.
Solidarity to the Ballsbridge 12, and thanks so much for coming on there, Johnny, and sharing that. And that's fantastic to see what happens when workers come together, what they can do, and also when workers reach out to other workers outside of their own workplace and join in solidarity. So now that we've had those 2 speakers, I think I'm going to go to some more music. So welcome Gary Blouse and friends, who are going to be singing None of Us Are Free by Solomon Burke. Thanks. Okay, that was pretty amazing. I really enjoyed that. And I want to say thanks to all the musicians who sent in music once again. So I'm going to introduce Darren Roach now, who's a special needs assistant and a Forza member. And he's also a campaigner with SNAG, which is the Special Needs Assistant Advocacy Group. Sorry. So welcome.
Thanks a million, Sive. SNEs have been thrust into the spotlight during this pandemic due to the fact we've been working on the front line unvaccinated with some of our most vulnerable children, providing intimate care needs for students who can't wear masks or socially distance. We've tried to take advantage of being in the spotlight to highlight problems in our role and problems in our terms and conditions. These include the minimum requirements, educational requirements required to be an SNA, our lack of job security, our lack of career pathways, and our salary pay scale, which needs to be improved. Me and other SNA activists came together with John Whipple to form a group within Forza called Forza Left to try fight for these improvements and to push through our agenda from within Forza to try and implement change. If you're interested in fighting for workers' rights, I'd urge you to join People Before Profit. I'd also urge you to join a union. So if you're an SNA, that's Forza. If you're another worker, that's the relevant trade union. If you want to be a union activist and be a vehicle for change within your trade union, I'd advise you to email tu@pbp.ie. We all know that austerity is around the corner. It's important that all workers maintain a united front, as we will be the people expected to foot any bill. Lastly, I'd like to say solidarity with Debenhams workers, ESB workers, taxi drivers, and anybody who finds themselves on the picket line, and may you enjoy the rest of today's festivities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren, and solidarity to yourself and all the SNA workers who play such a vital role in our society and are being mistreated by the government. And we've seen that across the board with frontline workers being mistreated. And, you know, we've seen who are the most important workers in our society at the moment. It's teachers, it's shop stewards, it's teachers, it's shop workers, it's nurses, etc. So I'm going to introduce on another worker now, Susie Douglas, who is part of the Unite Registered Childminders branch, which was recently set up in the North. So welcome, Susie.
My name's Susie. I'm a registered childminder and the chair of the Registered Childminders branch of Unite. I can honestly say, hand on heart, I love my job, but there are many issues in our sector that need looked at. And I'm really hopeful with the help of Unite, we're going to be able to achieve that. When COVID-19 hit last year, the changes to our sector happened thick and fast. We were told that we could only look after children from key worker families, meaning that any children that we were currently minding from essential worker families, we had to turn away. We were also told that we could only look after 2 families at a time. But depending on what area you were in Northern Ireland, there was a lot of discrepancies. Some childminders were being told they could have 2 families per day. Some were being told they could have 2 families per week. Some were being told it was 2 families in total. That's when we decided we needed a collective voice, a grassroots voice that knew the issues, and we could take the people that made these decisions. So that's when we decided we needed a union, but we didn't even know if this was possible. Being self-employed, we weren't sure whether being a part of a union was something that was even achievable. Thankfully, one of our childminders, her partner had ties with Unite before, and he approached Unite and they said, yeah, why not? Let's look at this and see what we can do. And the registered childminders branch of Unite was born. We will be a year old this month. None of us from the committee have met in person, but what we have achieved in the last year is absolutely phenomenal, and it's thanks to Unite. We have met with the First Minister, the Deputy Minister, heads of parties, heads of departments. We've been able to secure funding for our sector, isolation funding and sustainability funding. This is something that we could never have done without Unite. We have also now been recognised as a body that represents childminders. We have had invitations from the Department of Education to come and put proposals forward for funding for our sector. We have been invited to sit around tables where decisions are made around our sector. We've been invited to speak at those tables. The opportunities that Unite have brought us are just monumental. There's still a lot to do. What we have achieved in the last year has mainly been COVID related, but there are things in our sector that need change to bring us into line with the rest of the UK, our ratios, how we're inspected, etc., how we're regulated. But I'm pretty sure with the backing of Unite, we will achieve what we set out to. And I just can't thank Unite enough for the opportunity. And I love being in the committee. I love the work that we do, the doors that have been opened to us. And we stand in solidarity with everyone else. And I would just like to wish you all a happy May Day bank holiday weekend. And thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Susie. And I think that's really powerful. And it shows that even in the depths of this pandemic, workers have continued to get organised, as we've seen from all of our speakers. I'm going to introduce another person now. The Premier Perry Glass workers who were organised with Unite led a fantastic struggle recently. And unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight. But John Whipple, who was actually spoken about quite kindly by John Eglin and the Ironwork workers, is going to be reading a letter from them. So without further ado, John, yourself.
Hi, Clive. Thanks. I'm very proud to be here tonight and be with some of the workers that have been working with People Before Profit and been working with the trade unions to make work in Ireland a better, safer, more dignified thing. What happened up in Drogheda was well, I'll tell you what, I'll just read Ronan's letter. Ronan's a shop steward up there. He's a Unite shop steward. I'm a fellow member of Unite, but I'm in the education branch. He's in a much heavier branch there. It's a big manufacturing plant up there on the Boyne. So I'll just read the letter here. Here we go. It says, my name is Ronan McEntee. I'm a Unite union shop steward working for Premier Perry Clays in Drogheda. In June 2020, PPL management informed Unite shop stewards that it was giving 7 days notice of their plan to lay off 20 of our members. SIP2 members would also be laid off. We began negotiations with the company in an attempt to avert layoffs. All our suggestions were rejected. Management intended to use contract labor and staff to do some of our work while we were laid off. Both unions invoked our grievance and disputes procedures of our collective agreement and requested the assistance of the WRC, the Workplace Relations Commission. All parties agreed to arbitration under the auspices of the WRC. Well, during our arbitration, management refused to engage meaningfully in an attempt to frustrate the industrial relations process and to use the WRC as a vehicle to proceed to the Labour Court. Talks broke down. We were then informed that management had suspended 2 of our members from the company sick pay scheme. This was met with a furious response. One of these members was recuperating from cancer treatment. Our members tabled a motion to ballot for industrial action up to and including strike. Ballot to strike was passed with 96% of members in favour. We commenced strike action and picketed the entrance of the plant. The strike lasted 9 weeks. It was a tough time for our members, who faced serious financial hardship, but we were undeterred. This was an attack on our rights and terms and conditions of employment. Management then sent letters to the homes of all our members stating that the terms and conditions of our employment were null and void, and that management would no longer engage with unions, and that unless our members resigned from the union and returned to work with no collective agreement under the terms and conditions that management would dictate, they would be sacked. The members refused to be intimidated. The support we received from Unite Union, both practically and financially, sustained us through the 9 weeks. Also, the support and solidarity given to us from the local community and the small businesses were incredible. Fellow branches within Unite and SIP2 and unions across Ireland like Forsa and NIPSA were quick to offer their support, and the members dug deep in the middle of a pandemic and made donations. Political parties like People Before Profit stood with us and used their influence and resources to highlight our fight. Local TDs, our mayor, activist groups, and some local media rallied to support us and gave us a much needed morale boost to the men and their families. Without their continued support throughout the strike, our case would not have been prioritized for a hearing at the Labour Court. We will be eternally grateful to all their support. The Labour Court recommendation found almost completely in our favor. We were vindicated in our rights. We were vindicated in our fight for our rights, and it was a win shared by our members, by our union officials, by the local community, those political parties and groups that supported us. Without their solidarity and support, we could not have won our case, and that is why it is vital that all workers join a union and defend their rights. These rights were hard fought for and hard won by the men and women of Ireland. It is a fight that we continue to have with our employers. Our only protection against our employers undermining employees and denying us our rights is our unity. And without our unity, we will never have equality. In unity and solidarity, unite shop stewards and PPL. I think it's a lovely letter, and I think he's drawn a great line to history there. I'm really happy that he sent that in. I just want to make sure that the contribution was in for the night. I thought it was a really significant struggle. So thanks, Si, for including.
Thank you, John, and thank you for all the work you do as the union organizer. You've done a lot of great work, and we really appreciate it. And I want to shout out to those workers as well who have really shown the wins that we can have when, as they said themselves, when people come in behind them, because, a strike's only as strong as the people who are involved and the people, not just the workers, but the community who comes in and gets involved. I've also just been told, though, that we actually have some video footage from their picket lines, which we're going to play now. So just before we do some music, right. I think it might be nice after hearing that letter to see some of the picket lines. And
we went out there to visit them in Drogheda just at the beginning of the pandemic there, really. So yeah, it'd be great to see that again. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ronald McAtee. I'm a Unite representative from Premier Pericles. We're currently in dispute with the company over the company's non-engagement with us around layoffs and temporary shutdown of the plant. We have been through conciliation talks at the WRC, but unfortunately that didn't bring any resolution to us. We're simply asking that the company abide by the working conditions that we already have, and that they recognise unions and sit down and recognise that going forward we all need to have a working relationship together. Anybody from outside that can help us and support us and bring pressure on the company to come back to the negotiating table and sit down and honour the working agreements, that we'd be very happy if anybody could see their way to help us push that.
This is the start of week 2. We believe that COVID-19 was used as an excuse to try and tear up the collective agreement inside the factory. We've been to conciliation talks at the WRC, which the company have showed no meaningful engagement, which unfortunately had to lead us down to the path of coming down to the bottom of the road and setting up a picket here. We have 38 people out on strike at the moment. We want to get back to work as soon as possible. We want to go in and do what we're trained to do. Unfortunately, what we need is the management team to come down and meaningfully engage with us to try and find a resolution.
Audrey Fergus from People Before Profit, Louth East Meath. I'd just like to say a few words about the Premier Pericles strike that's going on in Drogheda at the moment. The lads, they have the full support of People Before Profit members, so they do, as they're trying to hold on to their working rights, to their jobs, to their pensions, to redundancies should they face them, and just other general working conditions.
One of the main issues at play at the minute is the company's implementation of the sick scheme. It shows us quite clearly that during a time of crisis, the company were prepared to go after the weak and the vulnerable of our group, and that's just unacceptable to us. We were already been to the Labour Court in 2018 on the sick scheme, and as far as we're concerned, it's working perfect the way it is, and it's not to be touched.
Thanks so much, and it's actually really fantastic to see, to see the picket lines, and I would implore anyone who's watching at the moment to make sure that they're in a union if they're working, and if there's a picket in your area, like the ESB workers have been out the last 2 days, to go down. You don't know how much it can mean to workers if you just drop down to the picket line with a few biscuits to say hi in solidarity. So now that we've seen that, I'm going to move on to a bit of music. We're going to be listening to Ronan Bartley now, and he's going to be singing Never Cross a Picket Line, Apt, by Billy Bragg.
Sacked for refusing to ever cross a picket line. The voices down the ages warning, never cross a picket line. You must never cross a picket line. 2 years gone, but still they never ever cross a picket line. With their wives and children stand together, never cross a picket line. You must never cross a picket line. Look away, look away, look away out west to San Francisco. Look away, look away, look away down south to Sydney Harbour, where the dockers have organised the world's biggest picket line. Technically this is an illegal strike, never cross a picket line. But technically workers have no rights, never cross a picket line. You must never cross a picket line. Are enshrined and written, never cross a picket line. You must never cross a picket line. Look away, look away, look away out west to San Diego. Look away, look away, look away out east to Farasaka, where the dockers have organised the world's longest picket line. The empire's gone, but there's no improvement, never cross a picket line. And where's the might of the labour movement, never cross a picket line. You must never cross a picket line. Look away out east to Farosaka,
Thank you so much. A very important message, I think, for today. Never cross a picket line. I'm going to introduce the next worker who's going to speak now, and that's Shane Flynn, who is a member of the IWU, who are fighting for recognition. They're the ESB workers, and they've been on strike the last 2 days. So I'm really pleased to welcome you.
Thanks very much, Sive. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Just a quick introduction. Shane Flynn is my name. I'm a network technician with the ESB for 10 years, the last 6 of which I've spent on South Lots Road. As part of my day-to-day work, I drive a tower hoist working on overhead network all over Dublin. I'm sure the public at this stage are aware that approximately half of the network technician category have embarked on a course of industrial action, but maybe not necessarily are aware of the reasons behind it. So if I could just briefly explain that the dispute that we have, it doesn't centre around collective bargaining, and it doesn't centre around recognition for the Independent Workers Union. We've actually attempted at all times to work and comply to the existing agreements, the existing terms and conditions that are in place within the framework that's there already as regards work implementation and outsourcing. But within that framework, there's a consultative process in the form of league meetings, local implementation groups, from which we've been excluded despite numerous attempts to get the company to engage with us. They just refuse to acknowledge us. So I suppose the catalyst for everything was a few weeks ago, the company tried to get some of our members to carry out works that they hadn't been consulted in or briefed upon, and they raised some fairly grave and serious health and safety concerns, and they were more or less told to put up or shut up and get back to work. So that's when the matter escalated. The IWU wrote to them and said, you need to desist from this kind of behaviour, sit down and talk to us about it. And of course the company refused. The IWU put the matter to ballot of its members, and we returned a yes vote to industrial action, nearly 99%. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been engaged in a work to rule with intermittent work stoppages. Next Tuesday and Wednesday will be the next strike days. We've had absolutely fantastic support from the public. It's lovely, as you were saying already, Sive, it's lovely. People come down, say hello, talk to us, try and get on board with our cause, and realise that the intentions that we have, they're not financially motivated. We simply want the company to engage with us under the legislation that's there and take on board what it is we want to tell them as regards the outsourcing of work. In addition to that, the worst thing about it is that the only correspondence we've had from the company, the only meaningful one anyway, was a kind of legal case for damages as regards defamation. So that's where we are now as regards that. Yesterday I spoke to John, and he asked me if I'd conclude with a message for the ESB, and I have just a simple one. It's the 600 men and women you have banished to the gate that keep the nation humming. It's the 600 men and women whose transport you have taken that keep the lights on. And it's the 600 men and women who have chosen the IWU as their preferred representative group that are acting as if we are one. So let's stop the childish back and forths and start to show some mutual respect, acknowledge us, sit down at the table and talk to us, and let us all get back to work again. Thanks very much, guys, for listening. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks so much, Shane. Thanks for coming down and sharing that. And really well said. And I see the support Debenhams Workers has said solidarity from the Debenhams Workers, which is great. And hopefully people will be able to pop down to your pickets during the week next week as well. Sorry, I'm going to introduce the next worker now before we go to a bit more music. So it's my pleasure to introduce Conor McCarthy, who is a Unison shop steward, and he works in the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. And, you know, as we've known, like frontline workers, hospital workers have been a core part of keeping the country running during this pandemic, and they deserve to have their rights met and to have a safe and suitable workplace. So welcome, Conor.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much, guys. And you know, it's a May Day greetings to everybody and People for Profit and everybody else on the calls. Lovely to see you all tonight. You know, just want to mention in regards to the NHS here in the north and across the UK, there's an offer out at the minute, as you know, in regards to 1%. Obviously, we see this as a bit of cake flying exercise, and Boris Johnson and the narcissists and the Tories are probably going to come back and think there's a better offer on the table in regards to 2 or 3%. But obviously, that's still not going to do. That's still not going to be enough. Speaking from my own branch's point of view in the Royal, we view anything less than 10% should never be accepted. And we should fight for more and continue to fight for more. And that's not only for health workers in the north, for health workers right across the island of Ireland who have put in so much this year in regards to the battling the pandemic. Also, while, as you all know, hospitals are not made up of doctors and nurses, just they're also cleaners, they're also porters, they're also caterers, and so admin workers, so many workers in that chain who deserve to be recognised. The reason why there has been huge outbreaks right across our hospitals is because cleaners are playing a vital role in keeping COVID out of our wards or our apartments, and they need to be recognised. So it's really important that going forward here, particularly this year, out of all the years, the unions need to consolidate their strength, come together and make sure we get the pay raise that we deserve. Now, in regards to the 10%, no less than 10%, as I'm saying here tonight, that's just an acknowledgement of wages owed that were stole over successive years. So we're looking the money back. So as I say, as far as we're concerned, there needs to be a real push for this right across the island, right across UK, right across Europe, for health workers to come on board and fight for decent pay and improved terms and conditions. As the south is no different than the north in the sense where there's huge waiting lists, there's huge backlogs in regards to people who are suffering, who can't get access to health. And we're now coming into an age in the north where people are being denied access to health through lack of means. That is completely contrary to everything that the NHS stands for. And when Bev informed the NHS, he made it clear it's not a charity, it's free at the point of access to everybody, and it's an act of pure socialism. And that's what it should remain. And that's in danger. And it always is in danger. But this year, it's really in danger. So it's not only about pay. It's not only about proving the terms and conditions. It's about protecting that situation, protecting that jewel of having people to be able to have free access to healthcare from cradle to grave. It's so important and needs to be ramped out, obviously, right across the island. So going forward, no going back to normal. No, there was nothing normal about normal. It was actually grotesque, particularly for workers. So post-Brexit and everything that's happening in regards to constitutional discussions and so forth, in the middle of that, workers cannot be lost. And this time, coming in this new century and the centenary in the north up here and dialoguing over about on All Ireland and an All Ireland Health Service as well, Labour won't wait this time. It's really important that workers' rights at the heart of all of these discussions, no matter what side of the community you're from, no matter what job you do. So please keep fighting, keep coming together, keep meetings like this, keep networking. And for health workers right across the island, let's hope everybody gets the justice they deserve, and that is a decent pay raise and improved terms and conditions. So listen, thanks very much for inviting me on tonight. Really appreciate that. And it's brilliant music and great to see everybody on the call. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Connor, and solidarity to yourself and your colleagues and all frontline workers, especially in hospitals, especially the workers in hospitals who are, supremely underpaid. We see, like, in hospitals, the majority of cleaning staff, nurses are, like, a huge amount of them are women, are migrants, and we need to make sure that their rights are protected and that they're given fair pay. 1% pay rise is obviously not enough, especially in the face of what all these workers have done during coronavirus. So thanks so much, Connor. Really appreciate you saying that. I'm going to introduce Owen O'Canavan, who's singing a bit of music for us now, and he's going to be singing Connolly Was There by Dominic Bean.
Oh, there is a page in history where the workers, they fought back on the might of exploitation at last began to crack. In farm and field and factory, in workshop, mine and rail, a flame is lit, a beacon bright, that flame is burning still. And Connolly was there, Connolly was there, bold, brave and undaunted, James Connolly was there. Well, William Martin Murphy and his Dublin millionaires tried bribery, corruption, hypocrisy and prayers. Despite the transport union, their scabs they did enlist, but all their graft was shattered with the scarlet iron fist. and Connolly was there. Connolly was there, bold, brave and undaunted, James Connolly was there. When the bosses tried to sweat the lads way down on Glasgow's Clyde, a voice like roaring thunder soon shook them in their stride. In Liverpool and Belfast, where worker lives in hell, but Connolly rose and gave them hope, the truth to you I tell, and Connolly was there. Connolly was there, bold, brave and undaunted, James Connolly was there. And surely now the day will come when workers one and all will rise up from their bended knee and rally to the call. Throw out the boss's tyranny and shout from shore to shore for a workers' republic and freedom evermore. And Connolly will be there. Connolly will be there, in spirit with the workers, James Connolly will be there.
Mish. Thank you so much, Owen. That was really beautiful. I'm really honoured now to introduce our last speaker of the evening, Jane Crowe, who is the Debenhams. She was the shop steward for Debenhams in Henry Street, and for the last just over a year now, the Debenhams workers, who are predominantly women, have been out on strike, and they've been leading the way and showing us what is possible, what kind of protest and struggle is possible during this pandemic. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jane Crowe. Hey, Jane. Jane, I can't hear you. You might be muted. There should be a button just at the bottom of your screen with a microphone. Okay, do you know what we might do, Jane? I might just go to some more music and then come back to you if that's okay, right? In the meantime, what I'll do is, if this is okay with the tech people behind the scenes, I'm gonna go to play a bit more music, and I'm gonna play. Shiva's gonna come back and do "Building Up and Tearing England Down" by Dominic Dean. Thanks.
I have one hero's name, from McAlpine and Costain, from Fitzpatrick Murphy's Ash and the Wimpy's gang. I've been often on the road, on me way to draw the dough, when there's nothing left to do for Johnny Lime. Now I used to think that God built the mixer picking hot, so that Paddy might know hell above the ground. I've had gangers big and tough tell me tear it all now rough, when you're building up and tearing England down. I was on the shuddering down on the day that Jack McCann, he got the better of his stammer in a week. He fell from the shuddering down, and that poor old stuttering man, he was never ever more inclined to speak. And I saw Balls McCall from a big flyover fall into a concrete mixer spinning round. Though it wasn't his intent, he got a fine head of cement when he was building up and tearing England down. I remember Carrier Jack with the hood upon his back, how he'd swore one day he'd set the world on fire. Well, his face they've never seen since his shovel it could clean in the middle of the big high tension wires. Oh, no more like Robin Hood will he roam through Cricklewood, or dance around the pubs of Camden Town. Oh, but let no man complain, sure old Pat could die in vain when he's building up and tearing England down. So come all you navvies bold, who would you think that English gold is just waiting to be taken from each sod? Who the likes of you and me will never get an OB or good knighted for good service to the heart. They have a concrete master race who will keep you in your place, the ganger man to kick you to the ground. If you ever try to take part of what the bosses make when you're building up and tearing England down, when you're building up and tearing England down, when you're building up and tearing England down.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Jane now, who is, as I said before, was the shop steward in the Henry Street Debenhams picket, and her and her fellow workers have been out on strike and on industrial action for the last just over a year. So Jane, can you hear me? Jane Crow? She's gone dark there, unfortunately. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave her up on screen, and if she's able to come in, she will, hopefully, because I think what the Debenhams workers have to say is really important, and they've been a testament to struggle. But just while she's trying to sort out her mic and her video, I will possibly give an intro about the struggle that the Debenhams workers have been through over the last year, because I have been privileged enough to be down at the picket lines for the last year and a half, year and a bit. I was there the other night in Henry Street when the guards came and when they removed workers with force, and I was actually arrested there. And I think the last year the Debenhams workers who have been they were made redundant. Excuse me, sorry, I'm kind of ad-libbing because Jane has gone missing. But they were made redundant at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a tactical liquidation, and they weren't. The company didn't honor their contracts, which they agreed in 2016, which was 2 weeks per. It was 2+2 redundancy.
No, 2+2.
Yeah, 2+2,
Yeah.
and I think when that happened. Because when Cleary's happened, people said that can never happen again. That will never happen again. We had the Duffy-Cahill report, and that none of that legislation was implemented. So of course it did happen again, and here we are a year later. And I think that's why the Debenhams workers' struggle is so important, because they're not just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for their own 2+2 redundancy, but they're also fighting for every other worker. We've seen during this pandemic that the COVID crisis has decimated retail, and oh, Jane, are you back? I still can't hear you, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm really happy that Jane's turned up tonight. She seems to have turned into a bit of an activist here. She's been at a number of different things for us. Last week we had a really good event on Wednesday, and it was kind of the inspiration for an event like this, in that what we had was we had Jane talking, and we had Connor McCarthy as well. We also had one of the Arcadia workers, and hearing all those stories together was really powerful. It was something, usually when we do kind of a talk online, we kind of drill down on one particular story, one strike, one conflict. But when you see everybody together, like we're seeing tonight, it's kind of moving, and you can't avoid seeing working people, and you can't avoid seeing the shared struggle that we've all got there. And what I really liked was seeing like Johnny Glynn, the Aramark striker. I remember him coming with me up to the Debenhams picket, and when we went up to visit the guys up in Premier Pericles, they said, "How are they doing down there in Debenhams?" They knew straight away what was happening, because that struggle, it's shared. And it's a beautiful thing to see that come together. So I'm really glad Jane's here tonight. But Jane, do you want to come in on this at all?
Jane, maybe if you take your headphones out, it might work. But you might be able to speak. But if not, no worries. We can only live in hope.
The thing was, I mean, you saw in the video that I forgot about that. We went up to shoot that video in Drogheda, and we brought a poster with us because we happened to have one in the car. And I said, we've got a poster of theirs in the car. Actually, we were just down there before, and they said, well, bring it out. And we brought it out, and they did the picture that you saw there with kind of all the guys there in the yellow vests holding up the Solidarity with Debenhams Workers. And I thought that was fantastic. The same kind of thing happened with Aramark. And then when all the Sisters of Charity retirement homes went in the summer, there was St. Monica's, St. Mary's, and what was the other one called? Caritas. We had people out on the streets down in Donnybrook, and this was all happening simultaneously at Debenhams. St. Monica was actually very close to the Parnell Square picket that the Henry Street workers kept. And we suggested at some point, why don't you go up and visit the guys up in St. Monica's? And they did, and it was a really cool moment as the workers from Debenhams came around the corner up there at Mountjoy Square, and they recognized them from the stairs, and there was just a general applause back and forth, and everybody had their 4 different unions represented out there, and Jane got up to speak. Luckily, there's no tech problems at that particular thing because it was on the streets where people have their power. And we got out there, and she said, look, one important thing here: if you can, don't get locked out, get locked in. And that's kind of one of the things that reminded me of your involvement, Sive, in it when people went into the Debenhams store early in the summer. Now that's something that I wasn't involved in. I've got a family at home that I've got to take care of all the time. What was that like?
Oh, it was fantastic. We occupied the store in Henry Street, and I was just with Jane today, actually, and she was saying that we always get in trouble together, we always get arrested together, and we are jailbirds together. Unfortunately, Jane, I'm really glad we could see your face. I'm very sad we couldn't hear your voice, but it's been a really fantastic evening, and I want to say thank you to all the workers who've been involved in struggle this year, and to all the workers across the world. And I want to especially thank Jody, Johnny, Darren, Susie, John Whipple, yourself, Shane and Connor, who have spoken tonight. And I want to thank Jane, who has tried to speak tonight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to outro and play a last song, which is Back to Shiva, and we're going to do a workers song. So thanks so much to all the workers, up the workers, and happy May Day.
Come, all of you workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries long past, for no more than your bread, have bled for your countries and counted your dead. In the factories and mills, in the shipyards and mines, we've often been told to keep up with the times, for our skills are not needed. We've streamlined the jobs, yeah, with slide rule and stopwatch, our pride they have robbed. Ah, but when the sky darkens and the prospect is war, who's given a gun and pushed to the fore and expected to die for the land of our birth, though we've never owned one handful of earth? We're the first ones to starve, we're the first ones to die, we're the first ones aligned for the pie in the sky, and we're always the last when the cream is shared out. Yeah, the worker is working when the fat cat's about. Ah, but all of these things the worker has done, from tilling the fields to carrying the gun, we've been yield to the plow since time first began. Yeah, you're always expected to carry the can.